Welcome to Car Comparos. Today we'll be comparing the Tata Tiago with its lookalike, the Ford Figo. Pricing and features. The diesel Figo's mid-range trend variant retails for 7.1 lakh on road Delhi. Prospective customers considering a Figo trend now have a tempting option of the Tiago's top-end XZ variant. It retails for 6.1 lakh, which is a substantial 1 lakh rupees cheaper than the Figo. In spite of being cheaper, the Tiago also has more features than the Figo, especially ABS and parking sensors, which are worth around 40,000 rupees, making the Tiago 1.4 lakh rupees cheaper than an equivalent Figo. Performance and drivability. Neither the Ford nor the Tiago has a decent petrol engine. Both engines are sorely lacking in terms of performance, be it in terms of city drivability or overtaking ability on the highways. However, the Figo has a slight edge over the Tiago in terms of refinement. Ford's 4-pot mill is distinctly smoother and free-revving than the crude and gruff-sounding 3-pot of the Tiago. Figo's Duro-Torque diesel is a real monster. It has mind-blowing torque delivery starting from as low as 1500 rpm, thrusting the Figo forward with such vengeance that it leaves cars twice its price floundering in its wake. The Tiago, with 45% lesser power and 48% lesser torque than the Figo, can't even dream of putting up a challenge to the formidable Ford. Fuel efficiency. The Tiago Petrol has an ARAI certified mileage of 23.8 kmpl, which is around 5 kmpl more than the Figo's mileage of 18.2 kmpl. The Tiago Diesel has an ARAI certified mileage of 27.3 kmpl, which is around 1.5 kmpl more than the Figo's mileage of 25.8 kmpl. In our real-world tests, the petrol Tiago was almost 2 kmpl more efficient than the Figo petrol. The diesel Tiago, on the other hand, was barely half a kmpl more efficient than the Figo diesel. Space and comfort. The Figo is a little bit bigger than the Tiago, which has translated into marginally better interior space than the Tiago, especially the rear shoulder space, which is slightly tight for 3 occupants inside the Tiago but adequately comfortable inside the Figo. Even in terms of ergonomics, the Tiago falls short on lower back and under-thigh support, causing driver fatigue during long hours in the saddle. The Tiago also has a shade smaller boot, having 242-liter capacity in comparison to the Figo's 257-liter boot space. Both cars have modern and well-finished interiors and airy cabins with an uncannily similar glasshouse design. Handling and ride quality. Tiago has appreciable dynamics for a car of its class, but it is no match to the legendary dynamics of the Figo. The D in Ford's DNA stands for dynamics. Ford is deemed responsible for revolutionizing the dynamics of all the mainstream cars in Europe and by extension all over the world. The way in which Figo has managed to keep body roll under a tight leash and yet maintain incredible suppleness over the bumps is just unbelievable. The Tiago also absorbs rough roads quite well, but not as seamlessly as the Figo. Tiago also corners with enthusiasm, but does not have the sheer poise and finesse of the Figo. Tiago is also let down by its steering, while the Figo steering is an epitome of how precise and feelsome an electric power steering can possibly be. Reliability and after-sales service. Both Tata and Ford carry baggage of bad reputation for product quality and service support in our country. However, Ford has turned a leaf with the launch of the EcoSport and made decent progress in the past few years. Tata, on the other hand, remains complacent and has continued to deteriorate further and further, losing touchpoints in prime urban locales to its competitors. Resale and cost of ownership. Neither Tiago nor Figo are bound to hold good resale value compared to offerings from Maruti or Hyundai. However, the Figo will have slightly lesser depreciation than the Tiago over the next 5 to 7 years. The Figo Diesel works out to be just 35,000 rupees more expensive than the Tiago Diesel in terms of overall cost of ownership, since it makes up for the higher price tag by retaining better residual value than the Tiago. The petrol Tiago works out to be a notable 1 lakh rupees lesser than the petrol Figo. That brings us to the verdict. The Figo Diesel is clearly our pick, not just of this test, but of all cars up to 12 lakh rupees in India. It is immensely more powerful than the diesel Tiago, has superior ride handling and better ergonomics, which is far more valuable than the Tiago's extra electronic knickknacks and just 7% lesser cost of ownership. Amongst the petrols, the Tiago's savings are much more substantial and it doesn't have any performance handicap compared to the petrol Figo. This makes it a better value proposition than the Figo petrol. However, we don't really recommend either of the petrol cars. But if you insist on a petrol, we would recommend the Baleno or Celerio depending on your budget.